a lot of them come from broken homes. They come from neighborhoods and societies where, and communities where the culture isn't being visionary, but being survivalist.
Yeah.
And making it through that day or through that week. And so they come from environments where they're living paycheck to paycheck. They're not knowing where their next meal is going to come from. And so to try to encourage somebody that the vision is greater than the moment is a difficult thing.
Well, it's pretty cool to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
It's been, I don't know, when were you in that philosophy class? Like,
Jeez, that was almost
4, 5?
3.5. It was 3.5, 4 years ago.
Yeah. So 4 years ago, imagining, you getting out and doing all this and then doing an interview like this is pretty cool.
Yeah, especially because when we discussed it, when we were in there, it was one of those things that was a someday thing, to come, not something that we were expecting to actually be a reality this quick. So it was kind of fun.
Yeah. And weren't you one of the original ones, just like Kelly Rankin, that helped start the Wednesday afternoon support groups?
Yeah.
Remember we were doing that on Zoom?
Yeah, we did that on Zoom. So
that's been 2.5 years now, 2.5 or 3 years now. And I still do the one on Wednesdays. Tracy now does one on Thursdays for people that served long time. And then Matt is doing one for entrepreneurs every other Thursday. So we started that 3 years ago, and now we've got 3 groups, and some of them have been down for the whole 2-3 years, like Adam
Mm-hmm.
Lay.
Yeah, I remember Adam.
So he's been on the call consistently for 3 years now. I'd like to talk about a couple of things, mostly your incarceration and its relationship to education.
Okay.
Is a lot of what I like to do is promote the idea that people need to make use of their time in prison to better themselves and get an education.
Absolutely.
So if you could just tell me a little bit about what life was like before prison.
Prior to my incarceration, I was for a while the quality control supervisor manager at General Electric, and then I did a bunch of third-party inspection right up until my incarceration. But there was a hurdle to climb because there was no, there was no education, and then you get to that level and they want you to have some type of degree to be able to advance. And with the speed of having being a divorced father of 2 children, that wasn't in the cards for me at that time. So being able to do that at night, there was no night. So that was pre-incarceration. And then of course, being incarcerated, there's nowhere to go and nothing to do. So you almost have a reset. Yeah.
In Texas, it seems like probably for the last 10 or 15 years, things like in terms of the safety and environment in the prisons has calmed way down, so that getting an education is more, it's more likely that a person can actually pursue it. Well, so was that what led you to want to get involved in education? Was your previous experience in the job market?
Knowing that post-release, there would be a lot of roadblocks in the way to being able to regain or any kind of semblance of life coming home. You wanted to exhaust every opportunity. And in my mind, that was the reason why education was so important, is because it gives you chances. It gives you some experience. It gives you some knowledge to be able to prepare yourself for the hurdles that you're going to have to overcome getting out.
So what did education look like? So like, for example, for me, I just happened to end up on a unit where Lee College was available.
Right.
But in addition to Lee College, I was like, this is not Lee College. Like, I was reading all these books in prison on religion and philosophy and things like that. So I was trying to do a lot of extracurricular education in addition to what I was doing.
Absolutely. And I'm much like you. Another gentleman and I, by the name of Tuan, he and I were writing a book together. And we were educating ourselves in all areas of religious philosophies and thoughts. And we studied books on Judaism, Taoism, Hinduism, Buddhism, and of course Christian faith. But not only that, I was the production coordinator for the stainless steel plant on the facility, and so I had a lot of opportunities, like being self-taught with the help of our drafter there, AutoCAD, which I use currently in what I'm doing today. And it wasn't something that I was degreed in or certified in. It was just something that while I was there, I had an opportunity and saw it as a chance to grow somewhere. And I think that was true with everything that we were involved in. Is you're always looking for something to make you smarter, something to fill any possibility of negativity when you come home. You always had something. And one of the things that I learned being incarcerated, the term hustler. You got these guys that they spend all day figuring out how to create a hustle to survive in prison. And none of them, or very few of them, actually use that mindset to hustle an opportunity post-release. Yeah. And I think I was one of those people who I gravitated towards other people who wanted to know something, who wanted to grow. And so we shared books, and we worked on different programs, and every opportunity to train in different areas within the prison that I was involved in. And so,
yeah, so one thing is we have another guy that I've been in touch with for a few years. He got a job like 3 months out of prison. He did a horticulture landscaping trade. He got a job like in 3 months, but they offered him the supervisor job for like $60,000 or $70,000 a year. And from the way he told it, it wasn't merely because he had a horticulture landscaping job, it's because he was really good at math.
Right.
And that was something that the guys on the unit he was with remembered him for, was that he would help them with their math, and he was a math whiz. He would study these things on his own.
Right.
So in addition to whatever he did in formal education, this skill in math landed him a job like far beyond an entry level, landscaper or horticulturalist, something like that.
Right. And I think that's true in my circumstance as well. I did really good in speech, and I was involved in a lot of other extracurricular activities within the prison system, aside from Lee College, and where you had to get in front of people, you had to speak, you had to be able to coordinate. And dealing with being the production coordinator for years at the stainless plant, you're always in a role where you have to lead, but it is completely different than something on the outside, because not only are you leading and trying to motivate inmates who are working they're working for free. You also have to navigate that area where you're not in charge of anything. You're an inmate just like them, but you still need to motivate and get things done. And so that was a valuable tool for me coming home, was that I knew how to navigate those murky waters and try to get things done. And so that being something that I was good at naturally, it allowed me to advance rather quickly where I am now.
Yeah. So when I first started working for the college on the Darrington prison unit, I didn't even have a master's degree, and I was just a secretary, basically, right? But they hired me to help, basically translate between like the students in prison and the professors, and then the professors and the officers and chaplaincy, because none of the professors except one had any background in prison life. But they're like PhDs. So they're not used to taking, demands or, anything like that from a secretary. And I would have to tell them, like, if these guys are late, it may not be their fault. There's all sorts of things you have to take into consideration, because they were like, we're going to, count them as absent, give them Fs, give them zeros or whatever. And so that was really difficult, because it was just like you said, like, I'm in a position where I have some authority because I'm the guy that helps everybody understand each other, but I don't have any rank in the prison. I don't have any rank in the school, but I'm trying to manage that. So like people skills and knowing how to be strategic in that way is pretty valuable.
Right.
The other thing is that Prison Fellowship noticed the guys who were always trying to hustle, and if they could just like shift that focus to something positive, I think that was one of the points that, enabled them to flourish and be all over the United States. Not prison fellowship, prison entrepreneurship program.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's funny because, and I used to say this to these guys all the time. I had the wonderful privilege of being a guest speaker for the Muslim community there on the unit for their Talim. And they started a program amongst the men, not to utilize that service to educate so much about the teachings and tenements of Islam as they did to teach men to be real men. Mm-hmm. And I considered it an honor that I was approached by them, and they asked me, if I would come and speak at their program, because they saw how I carried myself every day.
Yeah.
And they saw how I was willing to interact with everyone and willing to help. And so, one of my talking points all the time with them was, if you took the knowledge and the ingenuity that you have and you applied that to doing good, and I used to say it all the time, that with that one unit, we could change the world.
Yeah.
And it's very true. And just to realize that for yourself, though, is something difficult, because you can't see while you're standing there in the dark the light that's outside here that you can affect, and that's difficult sometimes.
It's hard to encourage people to think long term.
Right.
Like that the quality of grit.
Right.
Remember that idea of grit, having passion and perseverance for long term goals. I was hoping I would be where I'm at today 20 years ago. I didn't know how.
Right.
I didn't know what I really needed to do, but I just thought, I'm gonna try and work towards it. And it's hard to get people to focus long term like that. Right. They just see what's going on right now. And
that goes to a lot of the culture that is of the people who are incarcerated. A lot of them come from broken homes. They come from neighborhoods and societies where and communities where the culture isn't being visionary, but being survivalist.
Yeah.
And making it through that day or through that week. And so they come from environments where they're living paycheck to paycheck. They're not knowing where their next meal is going to come from. And so to try to encourage somebody that the vision is greater than the moment is a difficult thing. And even now with the guys that I have working for me, I tell them all the time, I pray that they're not there in 10 years.
Yeah.
Because if you have a dream, go chase your dream. Know what you have to do to get that dream and make that dream a reality. And then just start checking off those boxes to meet those little individual goals to meet the grand goal. And I'm still doing it today. And being in a prison setting has helped me tremendously in being able to communicate with subordinates and coworkers alike. And some of them have never been to prison, but they haven't been exposed to somebody who teaches growth through a vision.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there are a lot of, I don't want to make it out like prison is a good thing, but there are good things that come from having been in prison, because it's like a traumatic, impoverished situation where you have to be gritty and resilient and perseverant.
Sure. And you, like myself, we were surrounded by the negativity. We were surrounded by the poor impact people. We were surrounded by the culture of depression that is in there. And you just can't allow yourself to be a part of that. Yeah. You have to see for yourself that what you were created for is much greater than what you're doing right now. And that even is true with you and I sitting here today. You have made tremendous achievements post-release. I'm on the process of that, and yet still, what we're doing today is nothing compared to what we're called to be and called to do.
Yeah. So say a little bit about that. What has it been like since you've been out, going on 3 years now?
If you look at my circumstance today, I'm in a great position. I just happened to get real lucky, and I went to a halfway house post-release and walked into a situation where one of the guys that was at the halfway house worked with me at the stainless plant at the Luther unit. And so I'd known him for about 8 years. Thankfully, I was, in his mind, a good and caring individual. And so he went to work the next day and spoke on my behalf and 2 days after I was after I was released, I was employed. Within 2 weeks of that, I was making, I received my first paycheck, and I was self-sufficient after 2 weeks.
Yeah.
I could pay my own rent. I could purchase my own things. And of course, it came out during the COVID era. So everything was shut down.
Yeah.
It took me from April, it took me 5 months before I could get to DPS to get an ID or a driver's license.
Yeah.
And so I got my road test, and the very day I got my road test, I had been planning all the way up to that moment. And, I had goals set of, 2 weeks out, I want to be here. Yep. A month out, I want to be here. 3 months out, I want to be here. So COVID kind of extended those windows for me because of having to go through all these things. But literally the day I took my road test and got my paper license in my hand, I went with my stepmother to the Hyundai dealership about 3 miles down the road. And with an hour and 45 minutes, I drove out in a brand new car.
Was it a Hyundai?
It was a Hyundai Elantra.
That's what I got when I first got out.
And the funny thing is, it was a brand new car. And a lot of inmates don't realize this, but if you've been incarcerated for over 10 years, when you come home, you credit-wise, you're a ghost.
Is that what they said?
Yeah.
That's what they told me too.
You're a credit ghost. You have no negative history, no positive history. You're nothing. So if you have somebody who will co-sign for you and you have sufficient income and you can verify that and prove that, then there's opportunities like new car buyer program. And so you can set yourself up in a situation to where you're not driving a car that's going to break down. You have reliable transportation that's going to get you to and from work. But a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
They don't know that those things even exist, so they don't even attempt it.
Yep.
And so those are things that need to come out and need to be said to people, that there's many opportunities, especially if you've been incarcerated a long time. You can come out and step into a lot of situations where the negativity of being gone so long actually becomes a positive, because all of the things, the bills that you had when you were incarcerated that went overdue and they've already been wiped off the books, and you're at zero again, starting all over. The bad part is you're starting all over, but the good thing is you're not starting at a negative. You're starting neutral and being able to grow positive from there. And so that was a good opportunity. There was a setback. Of course, the first job I had was a very dirty, low-paying job, but it was work.
Yeah. And
I had applied at a company out in what is it out here off of 290 in Waller.
Yeah.
And I actually say the name. The company was Daikin. I let them know in advance all my the criminal record and for the background check, and they told me that because it had the conviction was so long ago, it was over 13 years, that as long as it was over 10 years, there was going to be no issue. And so I signed their offer letter, worked great for them for a week and a half. And they actually wanted me to come in and work overtime. And they were really happy with my work and were going to advance me pretty quick. And I went there one day and my card just didn't work. And so I spent about 2 hours trying to figure out why my card wouldn't work so I could get into gates to go to work. And I was finally told that HR blocked it and I have to call them in the morning. That was probably September of 2020. And now it is February 2023. And about every 2 or 3 months, I get a text message or a phone call from them begging me to come back to work for them for more money.
Yeah.
But, it was a door that closed. And then, I learned a long time ago that no matter where you come from, no matter what your cultural background is, no matter what your religious affiliation is, you're going to be told no. Everybody gets told no. And I was told you're going to get told no 99 times. Just look for the one yes.
Yeah.
And when somebody tells you yes, you be extremely loyal to that yes. And you work hard for that yes. Because that person's going to tell 2 people. And those 2 people are going to tell 2 people. And before you know it, you have an army of people behind you that trust you and that believe in you.
Yeah.
And that's something that's been effective for me, because that door was slammed shut. There were people who believed in me, that thought I was a stand-up guy and that I was a hard worker. So they put in a recommendation for me and got me in front of the current owner that I work for. And he flat out told me, he said, I don't care where you've been. I care about where you're going, and listening to you and hearing your vision, I want to be on that train. And so he hired me with that opportunity to show my worth. And he told me he was going to keep me close to the vest for 90 days and watch me. 32 days later, he called me into the office and said he could purchase another property and wanted me to manage it.
Yeah.
And so I did that. And now here I am 2 years, December 16th, that was when I was hired with him. 2 years later, I'm in my third location.
Yeah.
And I call the shots, and I hire and bring guys in. And by God's grace, I've had an opportunity to bring other people in who have been incarcerated, who are trying to make a positive change in their life.
Yeah, what you experienced is pretty common. We had another friend of mine. He just got a job at Starbucks,
Mm-hmm.
and he worked there for a little while. And then HR told his boss, we can't have him, even though he told him up front everything that was going on. They went ahead and hired him, and then HR comes back and says after a while, you got to let him go. In that situation, the manager told him, don't worry about it, I'll take care of this, and then went to HR and told them they needed to make an exception. But because he had already worked for them and that manager knew his work ethic and his character, they were willing to go to bat for them, and defy HR. But some people don't have it like that. And like in your case, I don't know how to circumvent that. I don't really know what to do in that case, because we do everything we can to tell them in advance. Right. It's on paper, but there's this disconnect between like the local office and HR and their responsibility.
And sometimes you can't do anything about it. You can't do anything about it with regards to dealing with them, but you can do something about it when it comes to yourself.
Yeah.
When you're told no, sometimes it's because this door wasn't supposed to be where you go anyway. You're supposed to go over here, and the only way you're going to get there is if that door is slammed in your face. And if you keep, like you and I were just saying, if you keep an eye on your vision and you understand where you're trying to go, you'll find a way to get there. And I look back at it now, had I been there at that job, doing that, making decent money, I probably wouldn't have taken the leaps that I've made now.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't have seen the rewards that I've seen thus far.
Yeah. Well, that's another one of those things that I try to focus on is their character, because they are going to get told no. I think that things are a lot better now, like in the economy and in our culture when it comes to people having a criminal background. But that doesn't mean you won't get told no. Sure. You just need to know that in advance. Yeah, right. You're going to get told more frequently than someone who hasn't been to prison, but then you just go to the next person.
Right. And you're going to find the yes. And when you do find that yes, be loyal to it.
Yeah.
And utilize that opportunity for your success.
Yeah.
And even if it's a stepping stone and it's not where you want to be, use that as a stepping stone or as a foundation stone to build to where you want to be. And don't utilize that opportunity and then burn the bridge when you have a different opportunity. Utilize those connections and network. And that's a big thing, dealing with Lee College and dealing with being in prison. I learned real quick that the network is very important. Networking is extremely important. You can get all the education in the world and study every book and every class that Lee College has. But if you don't apply that and you don't associate yourself with people doing the things that you want to do and are like-minded, you're not going to succeed. And I used that to get where I am. People that I knew that saw me as good character, because I did not burn bridges with them when we were incarcerated together. And then even now, some business opportunities have just approached me. A gentleman wants me to go into business with him that would almost triple my income.
Yeah.
And when I say triple, I mean this is a big money opportunity and allows me to realize a lot of the goals and dreams that I had planned post-release. Yeah. And it only became because we networked because of a work-related situation. And he saw my work ethic. He saw how I carry myself, and his flat out words were, "I can see in you have the vision."
Yeah.
And I want people like that around me, and which was a benefit to me. And so it is something that you need to practice while you're incarcerated.
Yeah, I think network is probably second runner up It's character and network.
Absolutely.
And your character in some ways sort of creates that network.
Sure does.
Because you might not be looking at some individual, like writing their contact, like I need to keep them in my network.
Mhm.
You're not doing it intentionally. It's just that who you are is
Right.
attractive to other people, and they remember you.
Absolutely.
And that establishes that. I mean, that's how I've managed to keep or not be without a job for more
Right.
than a couple of weeks.
And building that network and doing that is not just having names and numbers of people who are advantageous to you reaching your goals. It's building relationships, and that exactly is your character. And if you're honest and you're sincere, it doesn't matter where you've been. And I told this gentleman that, you know, hey, before we go any further than this, I want to tell you who I am, where I was, and why I was there. And we sat down and had a complete talk. And he goes, okay, no problem.
Yeah.
That weekend, I was invited on a family retreat with him, and we did escape room down in Kima, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
But it was just him and I and his family. And when we broke up into teams, I'm with his mom and dad, you know, and it was just an endearing moment, because it was something like, hey, I know who you are. You're honest. You're sincere about it. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, they carry that scarlet letter of prison on their back, and they try to keep it hidden with a heavy coat. And a lot of times that's not what's good, because if he finds that out later down the road, and he's like, well, wait a minute, what did I do? He starts second guessing my integrity, where, you know, if you're up front, he could have told me, okay, well, you know, I got to distance myself from you for that reason, because, you know, it would affect my business.
Yeah.
But it didn't. And he's like, hey, I'm looking at what you're doing. I interact with you all the time. I like what I see. And so I built a network, but you build the network with your character.
Yeah.
And your network isn't a list of names of people. It's relationships. And that's key.
That was, you know, one of the motivations behind the support group calls that you and I started up 3 years ago. Adam made a suggestion that we do so. And, you know, I just sort of took it and ran with it, because what we want to do is create a sort of network, just like the Aggies and the Longhorns and all, you know, we've got a network that can open doors for you.
Right.
But it's not merely because you went to college and prison. It's because we all know where you're at in life. And if you're one of these people that's kind of shady and, you know, you haven't really made that break from that life, then we all know that.
Right.
But yeah, so the network is really important. Well, you said a bunch of important things already: character, network, resilience, all those things. Is there any particular advice you would give to someone, maybe somebody that has just got their time, they're just starting off with a sentence, or maybe somebody that's about to get released?
Yeah, don't get caught up in the system. Don't allow any negativity to be your daily routine. You're in a negative environment, and it's natural. But utilize every moment that you can to educate yourself in every way possible, and start writing down goals. When I go home, I want to do this. This is my ultimate dream. I want to own this type of business, or I want to do this type of thing for myself. I need to do these things to make my family better when I get home.
Yeah.
And then start writing down the little goals that are necessary. I once heard a comedian. He was talking sincere about children, and I think the same holds true with prisoners. Don't force education down their throat. Teach them to chase a dream, and the dream's going to require the education. And he used the example of a airline pilot. Your child wants to be a pilot. Encourage that, and talk to them about that. What it takes to be a pilot. They're going to know that they're going to be good in math. They have to be able to do this and be able to do that and do engineering. And they're going to do that naturally. They're going to go do that and be great at it because that's what they want.
Yeah.
That's their dream. And a lot of people, especially when you're newly incarcerated, it's hard sometimes to dream.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard sometimes to dream because you're overwhelmed with the onset of your circumstance. And Don't allow that to happen. Imagine that it's not over. My dad did this to me when I was a little kid. I got hit in the face with a line drive. It bounced off a rock and hit me in the nose. And then my nose was bleeding, and I picked up the ball, and they called timeout, and my coaches ran out and checked me. And I went into the locker room, and into the dugout, and they had ice and a rag on my nose for the bleeding. My dad came down and asked me to remove it so he could see it. And the only words he said to me at that time, he said, you could have made that play. But the words that follow have stuck with me all my life, and it got me through prison. He said, you need to learn how to play first and hurt later. Mm. And at the time, and even when you hear it now, it's like, man, that's so harsh for a father, But it was a life lesson that carries you even when you're all the way down. I mean, and let's face it, if you're recently incarcerated, you've hit the bottom of the barrel.
Yeah.
The only way to go from there is up.
Yeah.
And the question is, are you going to sit there and hurt, or are you going to keep playing?
Yeah.
And until life is over, there's still a play to be made. And if you understand that in your mind, and you start regrouping and figuring out how to make that play, and everyone is different. Every goal is different. Every dream is different. But you start surrounding yourself with people who are dreaming like you, who are dreaming with you, and it becomes easier.
Yeah.
And it's not the ideal place to go chase your dreams, but it's a great place to go plan for them.
Yeah.
Because you got a lot of time to sit and think about what you've done in the past that didn't work, that led you to where you are, and then what you need to do from there to get where you want to go.
Yeah. All right, CJ. Well, thanks so much for coming over. And I know just from the conversations we've had in the past and this one now that it's going to be very encouraging to a lot of people.
Well, I hope so. And if I was asked by the owner of our company, he said, "You sure you want to do that and have 20 people hate you for it?" And I said, "Well, sir, if 20 people hate me, but it affects one person in a positive way, it was worth it."
Yeah. Yeah. I think you'll be all right.
And he laughed and he said, "And that's exactly why I hired you."
Yeah.
And so, let's hope that this is beneficial to others.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.